Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am Dr. Nilofer Yusuf from Department of Pharmacology, here to demonstrate neuroleptics. Before starting our lecture, I want to state learning objectives of today's lecture, that are, by the end of this lecture, students should be able to know classification of antipsychotics, what is the difference between typical and atypical antipsychotics, complete knowledge of antipsychotics, and in the end lithium will be discussed in detail. Let's have an overview. Neuroleptic drugs are also called antipsychotic drugs or major tranquilizers. Tranquilizers are those drugs which help one in having good sleep. They are used primarily to treat schizophrenia. They are also effective in other psychotic states, manic states with psychotic symptoms. We can't say that it is a permanent cure or complete cure to one's symptoms. So neuroleptic drugs are not curative. They only help to decrease the intensity of the symptoms such as hallucinations, delusions. We classify these drugs as typical neuroleptics and atypical neuroleptics. This is very important university question. It comes like classify antipsychotic drugs. What is the difference between typical and atypical antipsychotics, and how newer drugs are better than the older ones? So these same questions are questions of your today's assignment. Note it down. I will not say it in the end or in the group afterward. So let's see what are atypical neuroleptics. They minimize the risk of movement disorders. Before starting the lecture or having complete overview, let's see the important definitions such as psychosis and neurosis. What is psychosis? It is a mental disorder in which contact with reality is lost. For example, schizophrenia. A person is living in his own world. He thinks what he thinks is happening in reality, although there is not such anything. Neurosis is also a mental disorder, but in this disorder, contact with reality is preserved, such as anxiety, phobia, fear of anything, and depression. Schizophrenia. It is a psychotic disorder characterized by delusions, hallucinations, disturbance of thought. Its prevalence in lifetime is 1%. Its onset is usually during late adolescence or early adulthood. 15 to 25 years male and around in 30 years females it is often seen. What is the cause? Strong genetic component, possibly a function of the mesolimbic or mesocortical dopaminergic neuron pathways. This is the key line. These are the pathways where secretion of dopamine is targeted for its cause and for its treatment. Mesolimbic pathway, increased dopamine release in this pathway causes positive symptoms. Mesocortical pathway, decreased dopamine in this pathway causes negative symptoms. Just say it is increased and over here it is decreasing. Increase in dopamine release are leading to positive symptoms, whereas decrease in dopamine release are causing negative symptoms. You can see in this picture, here is the mesocortical pathway and here is the mesolimbic pathway. What are positive symptoms? Hallucinations, delusions, disordered speech, suspiciousness. Same thing happening in schizophrenia, that person is thinking its own things which are not happening in reality. Whereas negative symptoms are related to reality. Social withdrawal, apathy, lack of motivation, and hedonia. It is a very good diagram I found on Google, so have a look how negative and positive symptoms of a person are affecting his social activities. Neuroleptic drugs. These drugs have diverse heterocyclic structures, different potencies. Here I want to say that every drug in this group is different from another drug of the group. So we can say it has diversity in its structures, and hence the structures are changed and they are present with different potencies, and we can't say one drug is better than the other. They are all wonderful drugs. They are divided into first generation and second generation. First generation further classified into low potency, high potency. Actually, this classification is based on affinity for the dopamine D2 receptors. First generation. They are called conventional drugs. They are also called typical drugs, older drugs. They are competitive blockers of dopamine D2 receptors. Most common adverse effects related to first generation are movement disorders, more common with drugs that bind tightly with receptors. No one drug is clinically more effective than another. Here comes different drugs having low potency: chlorpromazine, thiioridazone, and high potency. Over here, haloperidol is of great importance: loxapine, prochlorperazine. Here you can see different structures of the drugs of first generation. As I said before, that there is diversity of structure and every other structure is different from the other structure of the group. You can see in this picture. This diagram is from Katzen, Big Katzen. Second generation, also called atypical antipsychotics. I am repeating the differences alongside. The first generation was typical and they are atypical. These drugs have lower incidence of movement disorders. Although first generation drugs were having movement disorders, more incidence. High risk of metabolic adverse effects, although there was not such thing with typical drugs, such as diabetes, hypercholesterolemia, and weight gain. These drugs block both serotonin receptors and dopamine receptors, whereas our typical antipsychotics were blocking only dopamine receptors. And I must say that a blockage at serotonin receptors is inverse agonist activity. So here are the drugs under second generation drugs: aripiprazole, clozapine, olanzapine, risperidone, and these are the diversity in structures of second generation drugs. Differences among antipsychotic drugs. We said that no single drug is better than other. They are diversity in structures and diversity in potencies. Although all effective antipsychotic drugs block D2 receptors, the degree of this blockade in relation to other actions of receptor vary considerably among drugs. So here we can see that different drugs are acting on different receptors in our body and how their activity is changed according to it or modified according to it. Talking about chlorpromazine, we can see that it has equal effect on blocking alpha and serotonin receptors, alpha-1 receptors and serotonin receptors, and it has greatest affinity for serotonin in comparison to dopamine, which are D2 and D1. Then we can say haloperidol has greatest affinity for dopamine D2 receptors, whereas clozapine have greatest affinity for D4 and alpha-1 receptors, and then comes the serotonin. So here is the difference how different antipsychotic drugs different from each other in relation to the receptors they are blocking. Most of the second generation and some first generation antipsychotic agents are at least as potent in inhibiting serotonin receptors as they are inhibiting D2 receptors. Aripiprazole and brexpiprazole appear to be partial agonists of D2 receptors. Varying degrees of antagonism of alpha 2 adrenoceptors are also seen with risperidone, clozapine, olanzapine, and etc. Current research is directly toward discovering novel antipsychotic compounds that are either more selective for the mesolimbic system, as they to reduce the movement disorders side effect, to reduce the effects on the extrapyramidal system. So have effects on central neurotransmitter receptors such as those for acetylcholine and excitatory amino acids. As Dr. Said gave you overview of introduction of CNS, and he told you about different excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters. So how the drug must be selected. The second generation is first line therapy for schizophrenia. It minimizes the risk of movement disorders, equivalent or may exceed the efficacy of first generation. Selection among second generation, there is no difference in therapeutic efficacy, so it depends upon individual response and comorbid conditions. Refractory patients are also there, so schizophrenic patients who are not responding to first and second generation are approximately 10 to 20%. They may respond to clozapine, minimal risk of movement disorders, and use is limited to adverse effects of clozapine, so it is always kept in reserve. Adverse effects include such as bone marrow separation, seizures, orthostasis. Mechanism of action of antipsychotics, how do they act? Dopamine receptor blocking activity, of course. All of the older and most of the newer drugs block dopamine receptor in the brain and the periphery. They have, just recall the previous knowledge. Dopamine receptors, there are 5 types of receptors and they are function through G-coupling. D1 and D5 receptors activate adenylyl cyclase, whereas D2, D3 and D4 receptors inhibit adenylyl cyclase. Here are the different locations where D1, D5, D2, D3, D4 are present. Discussed before in detail. So how serotonin receptor blocking activity is done? It is another mechanism of action. Most of the newer atypical inhibit serotonin receptors as well, particularly 5-HT2A receptors. Clozapine has high affinity for D1, D4, serotonin, muscarinic, alpha-adrenergic receptors, and somewhat have very less activity but still have for D2 receptors. Aripiprazole, brexpiprazole and cariprazine are partial agonists of D2 receptors. They block serotonin receptors as well. Different pharmacological effects are such as antipsychotic actions. They reduce the hallucination and deliriums, means they are helping in reducing the negative symptoms. Due to D receptors blockage in the mesolimbic system. Negative symptoms not responsive to the typical neuroleptics. Many atypical agents such as clozapine ameliorate the negative symptoms to some extent. Extrapyramidal effects are also seen such as dystonia, akinesia, akathisia, tardive dyskinesia, and they are due to blocking D receptors in nigrostriatal pathway. In the start, I've shown you the picture in which nigrostriatal pathway is also shown. So here are some of the pictures how different movements are happening in these things. Pseudoparkinsonism, stupor, still is seen, shuffling gait, rigidity, akathisia, restlessness, especially of your extremities. Acute dystonia is with the facial disorders, and tardive dyskinesia is protrusion and rolling of the drag, and it is also having some facial disorders. We can see antiemetic effects with them, such as mediated by blocking D2 receptors of the chemoreceptor trigger zone of the medulla. And of all the antipsychotics, aripiprazole and thioridazine do not show antiemetic effects. There are anticholinergic effects also. They are common with thioridazone and chlorpromazine, clozapine and olanzapine. And these effects, they may lead to such as forgetfulness, blurred vision, dry mouth, and constipation and urinary retention. Other effects are such as orthostatic hypotension and lightheadedness due to blockade of alpha-adrenergic receptors. There is also altered temperature regulating mechanisms, and this is called poikilothermia. Not a set point of any temperature. Increased prolactin release due to blockade of D2 receptors, and sedation is also seen due to antagonism of the H1 receptors. Other effects we can see such as sexual dysfunctions due to various receptor blockage by these antipsychotic drugs. This is a picture how potency of different antipsychotics is seen. On the left, in this picture I want to say that you can see that these are the drugs which are blocking D1 receptors, and these are the drugs which are recepting dopamine D2 receptors. Drugs which are on the left side and lower have are most potent in comparison to getting higher, and they are less potent and higher state in the diagram. So these are more potent in comparison to these drugs. Therapeutic uses, such as they are used in treatment of schizophrenia, in treating typical symptoms. Typical are more often used for positive symptoms, and atypical antipsychotics are used for treating negative symptoms. Clozapine is reserved drug as they may cause blood dyskinesis and it is adverse effect. Prevention of nausea and vomiting. Some of the drugs are also used as antiemetics, such as chlorpromazine and promethazine are useful in treatment of drug-induced nausea. Other uses come as in combination with narcotic analgesics for treatment of chronic pain with severe anxiety. Chlorpromazine is used to treat intractable hiccups. Promethazine is used in treating pruritus. Pimozide is used to treat motor and phonic tics of Tourette's disorder. Risperidone and haloperidol are commonly prescribed for the tic disorder, whereas risperidone is now approved in autism. Here I have included some of the pictures from Google, so you may have some idea of movement disorders. Tourette's disorder, it is characterized with tics. These are repetitive, involuntary movement or vocalization. If somebody have seen the movie Hitchki, Indian movie, I haven't seen it myself, but I just got its reference from Google. So in this, everyone was suffering from Tourette's disorder. Autism, it is also a psychotic problem for which antipsychotics are used. So now coming again towards therapeutic causes, other uses are, they are used for the treatment of bipolar depression. They are also treated for schizoaffective disorder, and they are used for in combination with antidepressants for treatment of refractory depression. Pharmacokinetics, they are administered orally, we all know that. Absorption, unaffected by food, so we can take them with food, their absorption will not be altered except ziprasidone, lurasidone and paliperidone, as the absorption is increased with food intake. They cross blood-brain barrier and they have large volume of distribution. Their metabolism is by liver. Some formulations are also available as long-acting injectables, and their therapeutic duration is 2 to 4 weeks. And they are used in such patients as outpatients and non-adherent patients. These are some examples of injectable antipsychotics present in market. Extrapyramidal effects are seen so they are due to excess cholinergic stimulation and dopamine inhibition. They include dystonia, and it may exceed from hours to days, akathisias, Parkinsonian symptoms, tardive dyskinesia, less common with atypical. So movement disorders are more seen with typical antipsychotics. So how they can be treated if one suffers from movement disorders? So anticholinergic drugs can be used for dystonia. For akathisia, propranolol or benzodiazepines should be used. Parkinson-like disease, antimuscarinic should be given. And tardive dyskinesia responds better to valbenazine and deutetrabenzene. Neuroleptic malignant syndrome is one of the very important side effects of antipsychotics. What is seen there is muscle rigidity, fever, altered mental status and stupor, unstable blood pressure and myoglobinemia. So one should discontinue the use of neuroleptics. Supportive therapy is given, and administration of dantrolene for muscle rigidity is given, or bromocriptine is prescribed. Other effects are dry mouth, urinary retention, constipation, so antimuscarinics should be given. Drowsiness is seen, orthostatic hypotension is seen, amenorrhea, glyctorrhea, gynecomastia, infertility and impotence is seen. Weight gain, monitoring glucose and lipids should be done, and mild to significant QT prolongation is also seen with thioridazine. These are the side effects of antipsychotics. So dry mouth, urinary retention, constipation is due to antimuscarinics over here. This table is from your Beck Kadzin. So these are the adverse pharmacological effects of antipsychotics summarized in a table for you, and this may come in your exams but not most commonly. What we should be conscious before prescribing antipsychotics to the patient: seizure disorders, motion disorders, elder patients with dementia, and they are contraindicated in hypersensitivity, blood diuresis, Parkinson's disease and epilepsy. Maintenance treatment. For patients with 2 or more psychotic episodes, maintenance treatment for at least 5 years is given, and this is said that there is no definite time. It's a hypothetical that 5 years may it will be cured, but still it is not curable. Only the symptoms can be decreased, and that time can be of indefinite period. Rate of relapse is very low with second generation, but it is more in first generation. Now see the coming to the individual drugs. Chlorpromazine is given orally, and it is the different preparations for which they are given. This is how it comes in market. Then comes thioridazone. It has low incidence of extrapyramidal effects, whereas it interferes with male sexual functions, and there is eye damage risk too with it. Trifloperazine, there are minimum autonomic actions, hypotension and sedation is less, whereas there are marked extrapyramidal effects. Flofenazine, they can be given as depot dose IM every 2 to 4 weeks. So it is a good thing. Instead of repeating dose every time or forgetting the dose, it's one administration is enough for 2 to 4 weeks. Then comes haloperidol. It is a drug of choice in acute schizophrenia. It can also be given as depot dose IM intramuscularly every 2 to 4 weeks. It is less epileptogenic, and it also don't cause weight gain. Then comes olanzapine. It is beneficial in atypical antipsychotic, and it is one of the most effective drugs. Clozapine, it is a reserve drug and most effective, but it causes a major disorder such as blood dyscrasis. So these were all antipsychotics being commonly in use. Now comes lithium. Before starting lithium, as we discussed schizophrenia, here I want you people to have an overlook at bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder, once known as manic depressive illness, and it was conceived as a psychotic disorder, but it was considered same as schizophrenia. But by the end of 19th century, it was allocated another disease. Its name was allocated, and it is now bipolar disorder. Lithium was the first agent shown to be useful in the treatment of the manic phase of the bipolar disorder. It was also not an antipsychotic drug. So lithium is used adjunctively in schizophrenia. Lithium continues to be used for acute phase illness as well as for prevention of recurrent and manic and depressive episodes. A group of mood stabilizing drugs that are also anticonvulsant agents has been widely used than lithium. We have seen it in bipolar patients or having psychotic problems. These drugs are such as carbamazepine, valproic acid for the treatment of acute mania and for prevention of its recurrence. Lamotrigine is approved for prevention of recurrence. Gabapentin are sometimes used to treat bipolar disorder, but are not approved by the FDA for this indication, whereas FDA approved drugs for manic phase of bipolar disorder are aripiprazole, chlorpromazine, olanzapine, and they are also used in combination for the treatment of bipolar depression. Coming back to lithium and its use in bipolar disorder. Lithium was first used therapeutically in the mid-19th century in patients with gout. It was briefly used as a substitute for sodium chloride in hypertensive patients in the 1940s, but was banned after it proved too toxic for use without monitoring. Then in 1949, Cade, a scientist, discovered that lithium was an effective treatment for bipolar disorder, engendering a series of controlled trials that conferred its efficacy as monotherapy for manic phase of bipolar disorder. So if a question comes, MCQ comes in your exams, which of the following can be used as monotherapy in bipolar disorders? So if there is lithium in the option, so you should mark lithium as the answer. Here are pharmacokinetics of lithium. They are completely absorbed within 6 to 8 hours. They are distributed in total body water, slow entry into intracellular compartment. Metabolism is not so significant. Excretion, it is entirely in urine. And their plasma concentration, target plasma concentration is 0.6 to 1.4. So dosage is given accordingly. How do lithium act? Lithium is directly inhibits two-signal transduction pathway for mood stabilizing action. It both suppresses inositol signaling through depletion of intracellular and inositol and inhibits glycogen synthase kinase 3 GSK3, a multifunctional protein. So how it is stabilizing mood by inhibiting, suppressing inositol signaling by depleting intracellular inositol depots and by inhibiting the enzyme glycogen synthase kinase 3 GSK3. These are the various enzymes that are affected by lithium at therapeutic doses, and most important one is inositol monophosphate, inositol polyphosphate 1-phosphatase, biphosphatase, fructose 1,6 biphosphatase, and all of them. Here's how it is acting. It is inhibiting steps in phosphorylation and bringing inhibits its action. So what are the various clinical uses of lithium? It is useful in bipolar affective disorder, recurrent depression, acute major depression, and it is also effective in schizoaffective disorder. Whereas various adverse effects and contraindications of lithium are tremor, decreased thyroid function, nephrogenic diabetes in spiders, polydipsia and polyuria, but it is reversible once treatment is stopped. They may be, sorry for this thing. Acha ji. So what adverse effects are being seen by lithium are tremors, decreased thyroid function, nephrogenic diabetes in spiders. Edema is also seen, and one may see the weight gain due to edematous condition. And it is there is also transient acneiform eruptions, folliculitis, and they may be given in with caution, or they are contraindicated in the bradycardia tachycardia syndrome, and they must be given with caution with monitoring, close monitoring in pregnant women and nursing mothers. So here is I have summarized the typical antipsychotics, how they are blocking the various receptors, and how to what extent they are causing sedation and extrapyramidal symptoms. You may see that it's just a comparison between typical and atypical antipsychotics. ठीक है जी, it is a summary, you may just read it out. This lecture was prepared from your Beckadson, Lippincott, and images were taken from Google and SlideShare. Thank you so much. This is what this is your today's lecture. If there are any questions, you people are more than welcome to contact me personally or in WhatsApp group and ask me any of these. And assignment question is already given in the I have given you in the start orally. So just do it and post in WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.